it's been a bit of a hot streak for both of these teams. They haven't lost in a while. And well, for DPG, that 6-0 over Freak of Freaks is pretty massive. Of course, you can say, well, you know, Freak of Freaks, they just did lose stats. He has gone to the military just now. I think that was a very recent transfer that I saw on Wikipedia. And of course, you're going to have TY leaving soon as well, so he's not really putting his all into his games. I don't want to say TY isn't trying in matches, because of course TY is, but it's very hard when you know that you're going to be leaving to also then prepare for matches when you're getting all that set up. And, you know, in that match, you know, Trap was still fielded, Armani was still fielded, and, well, they still ended up losing. Dark got the 2-0 over Trap. It was a pretty massive result. Team Envy last week did play GGG. That win, as you could expect. You know, Dream, of course, probably, I would say, the best player on Good Game Gaming. Managed to get a 1-1 versus Bunny, but SOS 2-0, Maru 2-0. But it seems like for both of these squads, these are kind of the rosters that they want to run. These are the rosters that they want to use. You're seeing, you know, DPG has been experimenting a bit, but they have been really mostly rotating through Rogue, Cure, Dark, and then Zest. That has been their rotation with those 4 players, and of course all of them world champions at one point, and that's been doing them extremely well. Now, when it comes to this matchup, I said this earlier when the stat sheets were coming up, when you had the little hexagons and Rogue completely engulfed SOS. But DPG, or what I said was, these teams, DPG is 1 loss below Team Envy. They have been the 2 teams that have been fighting for the first place spot. Envy, of course, undefeated up until this point, but it's been these 2 teams. They have been the ones to look at. They have been the ones to really keep an eye out for. So, what does that mean for this matchup? Well, it means if DPG wins, then they do tie that scoreline. Both of the teams, I believe, will be sitting at, what week is this week? 10. So both of them will be sitting at 9-1 if DPG ends up winning. And if Envy wins, of course, that will give them the 10-0. DPG will be 2 losses down from them. So, you know, in the end, that really does just mean that would secure Envy's spot. To put it like that, it would secure Envy's spot. That being said, oh, sorry about that. With that being said, in this game so far, just looking at what we have, you're going to be having the Void Ray opening from SOS. Now, SOS, in major tournaments that he's been playing, has actually been showing a lot of cheese. He has been showing just really a love of being aggressive off one base, especially versus Terran. Haven't seen a lot of PVZs from him, but I wouldn't think that they would change up too much. However, this is a fairly standard opening. The only thing that is a bit strange here is those 2 additional gateways going down, and that is something that is a bit interesting because, well, you got 2 additional gateways. That means that there's probably going to be a little bit of aggression here coming out from SOS now. It's probably not going to be, you know, a ton, but it's going to be something. So we'll have to see what SOS does decide to go for now. Of course, with it being, you know, with it being gateways, you do expect it to be some sort of tech from that Twilight Council, and you do see the glaives go down with the 3rd base. So, yeah, I like this build from SOS. Again, I do like how aggressive SOS as being, you know, the meta we've seen, especially with so many tournaments coming up recently. You've had IEM, you've had GSLs, you've had super tournaments, you have the next SC2 Masters coming up, which is going to be super exciting. With all of these events happening, it really does, you know, it does mean that the meta is actually kind of changing and growing and getting better and better, which I'm very excited about. And we've seen a lot more players start to experiment with more aggressive play, with mixing in cheese, and mixing in all kind of different things. And I think SOS has been doing that more recently, as he has shown the Void Ray. He has shown that, well, the Adepts, though, are scouted. It's only 3-gate Adept, so, you know, that 3rd base is not too delayed. And Rogue, well, already has a Roach Warren on the way, already has a Spore Crawler. He is plenty prepared for this, and yeah, it does not feel like SOS is going to get a lot of damage done. Nice wall off by Rogue. Gonna be able to keep those Adepts out, and of course, you just want to make sure that there is absolutely no chance for the Adepts to get damage. If possible, you want to try and just mitigate it before it even really starts, before anything really even happens. That's really the best result here for for the DPG Zerg. And you are seeing those roaches being produced behind this. So even though SOS tried to be a little bit tricky, he's like, hey, look at my Void Ray. You know, I'm definitely going air toss. Didn't know, of course, Rogue didn't know that the devs were being snuck in, but still had the proper preparations. And now, well, now Rogue is preparing for a follow-up push. You see a lot of roaches are now being produced off these 3 bases. No 4th base being taken either, as, ooh, that's a lot of adept losses. SOS got a bit greedy and loses quite a bit. Went into a single Immortal and now into Disruptors, and we'll have to see how Rogue decides to approach this. Of course, there is the option of pushing. After your opponent goes Glaive to Depths, there is a period where they have to transition. Because Glaive to Depths, they're good early on versus Zerglings versus light units. They are not good at all in the late game. There are a lot of units to counter them. Their use is limited mostly to harass, and even then charge lots to just become better than them for that at a certain point. So there's a period where the Protoss has to transition, and that's usually where Zergs will try and hit. They'll try and get a timing attack against it. They'll try and just bust through the 3rd base and take that down as soon as they can. Rogue says, actually, no, I'm not going to do that. He is going to start marching some queens across here. So he is taking the 4th. He's preparing for the Hydralisk Den. I imagine this Queen Walk, I don't imagine this would be for any sort of attack or not. I don't know exactly what the plan is here, and yeah, still on the minimap, Rogue. Just a bit of a misclick, but it's nothing too bad. The Zerg is in a great spot right now. You're getting a 4th base saturated. You're getting into your Hive Tech as well. And SOS, he's not terribly far behind. Just, it's a position where you're not going to be the most comfortable with where you are. You're going to look at this, you're going to be like, it could be better. Because, of course, he went the Glaive to Depths, and, well, when you go Glaives to Depths, you don't really want to then be sitting there and not getting any damage done. That being said, this follow-up push is quite powerful. You see the army supply there, eventually tipping in favor of SOS before Rogue gets the Roach cycle produced, was saving that very, very smartly. You see a lot of Pro-Zergs do that. They'll save, you know, a unit cycle just in case there is an attack coming, especially if they know that there might be a push out soon. First Disruptor shot doesn't get a good hit. Second one, though, is expertly dodged. Disruptor's getting picked up. The Adept's going to try and shade through, but there's only 1 Immortal with this push, so, well, that just means that the Roaches are going to do very well. Stalker's coming into support. Disruptor shots will be available eventually, and SOS, he is going to try and push the issue off 3 bases, has 7 gateways, sorry, available to him. We'll have to see if he can make this work. There goes the shade. The Disruptor shots are available. First one out. Does get a Ravager. You wanted more, though, for that, and that's a big shot. SOS managing to get some damage, but the front line is gone. The Adepts have shaded into the main, and now just the Stalkers, and they do not have Blink. Gonna have to get on out of there. 4 drones going down, though, as the Adepts are shading around in the main base. There we go, finally get a shot of it. They are eventually picked up. 5 drones and a recall. And 2 Adepts get out. Not sure if that was entirely worth. SOS, he's trading out army for army. That's not really what you want. You need to get damage done here against the Zerg. You need to try and kill them here. He's, mind you, behind this SOS. He's not taking a 4th. There's tech coming down, sure, but, well, that tech, it's not really going to be useful for this immediate Roach ball, because you now see Roach, or you now see Rogue. You now see Roach. No, you now see Rogue hitting that, getting close to getting maxed out, has the Lurker Den available, is getting those Lurker upgrades. You know, Rogue is getting into the composition that he wants to while having enough at home to defend whatever SOS is trying to do. In the meantime, SOS, well, he's trying to attack, just hasn't gotten any damage done. This is usually where you start to see Protoss players slow down in that momentum. Which is really what these attacks are meant to do, especially with the Stalkers that were warped in to deal with the Roaches. I mean, without Blink, that is, you know, kind of, it's hard to really push the issue, and I am surprised that SOS still hasn't even gotten it, considering how many Roaches he has, but just decided, no, I'm not actually going to be going into those Blink Stalkers. That is not my jazz. That is not the style that I want to go. Still can't help but feel like it would help them trade so much more efficiently, especially when you just have these slowlings chasing everything down. But Charge, Storm, and Immortals are all on the docket right now for SOS, and he's going to try and build that zombie toss. Charge a lot, Archon, Immortal army. Storm's available. Does still have those 2 Disruptors alive, though, and of course those can turn the tides of a fight if the hits are good enough, and of course with 2 of them available, you can one-shot a Lurker if the Zerg is not on point with their micro. But Rogue, Well, he's so good that it's not very often that you're going to see him actually lose a lurker, especially with the speed burrow done. Oh, no, High Templar getting caught out. That's massive. All three of them go down. Rogue just dancing around with these lings and says, well, there you go. Get some kills, and that's absolutely huge. You would love for those to still be alive if you are SOS. I mean, those storms are so useful. Just the ability to zone out the Zerg army is just so crucial in these late game fights. And now you see Rogue taking a 5th base, has a 2k supply or mineral bank. It's getting pretty rough here. It's getting pretty rough. So right now you're looking at this and, well, what do you have? Sorry, I keep hitting. I'm staying so close to my mic. What do you have as SOS? You know, you have to look at it. What does SOS have? He has charge lots. Those aren't going to be very good against the roaches. Well, they're not going to be as good against the lurkers. They're not going to be as good against clearing out hydralisks. The stalkers at this point are kind of going to lose their value. The blink stalkers, you know, they fit a very specific niche in PvZ. They're very good for all-in pushes when you have the micro. When you have the micro to blink them back and to keep them alive, they can really help crush through roach balls. But as soon as it gets to Hydralisk, as soon as it gets to lurkers, then they start to get shredded. The lurkers, of course, doing that extra damage versus them just means that it's so much harder to hold. This one High Templar doesn't have energy for a storm, but Rogue is going to back up. Another roach hit on the other side, and all this is trying to do is it's trying to buy time for Rogue. He needs to trade out the roach army slowly but surely until he can transition into better tech, into better unit, or into a better unit composition. Or actually, no, Rogue getting tunneling claws, so maybe he's going to stick on the roaches for a while here. But usually, you do want to trade out this roach ravager because you want to get more lurkers. You want to be able to get into your air force as well, looking for corruptors, vipers, and infestors occasionally. Most Zergs have not been adding on the infestors though, versus air toss, which is what SOS is deciding is going to be his transition. The Mama ship is on the way. +1 air attacks, 2 more Stargates. SOS deciding that this is the strat choice, and well, there goes that +1. Rogue with an insurgent of roaches able to just get that, eliminate that upgrade, and the storm weakens a lot of the roaches up, but the rest of the army to deal with this. Rogue actually trading quite well, and there's finally a warp in to help kill it, but you're just going to see another upgrade go down to +2 focused. Rogue, this is, I mean, it's what? A 14 roach hit and run manages to cancel a ton of upgrades, is going to get into the main and see the carriers producing. And immediately its 2 spires pop down. Rogue actually just got so much value off of those few units, is now going to try and push in once again, knows there's no vision from SOS. Says, well, I have lurkers, I have hydralisks, I can push this, and he's absolutely correct. There's not much here right now for SOS, who's going to try and push on the other side. Just managed to pick off a few lurkers here as they're trying to come back and defend, but he's going to lose his 4th base. No doubt about it. Oh, so many probes going down as well, though. 12. Oh, and the 3rd base denied mining as well. This is brutal, SOS. We can work with this push. Here it comes. Lurkers burrowing on in. What is there for SOS, though? You have 2 Immortals. You have a Disruptor. That Disruptor shot is gone, though. Blinding Clouds go down, and yeah, Rogue just collapses, and that's game 1. It's just a game where it slowly bleeds out. All right. Let's see what you got, SOS, because right now, down 0-1. DPG already off to a very strong start. And again, I do feel like in this kind of a format where it's a team league, where it's not really a major tournament, SOS is, I think, at a disadvantage. I think there's a lot less cheeses that you can really go for that are kind of like considered, I guess, standard. Or that like give you a decent chance of winning. You know, if you cannon rush, it's like, sure, you can do that, but Rogue is so good that that would be a risky build to go for. I think it would actually be more risky than it would be likely to get the win. And so I imagine SOS, who is a very creative player, you know, doesn't really want to show a lot of the builds that he has up his sleeve, especially when this is just 2 games. And, you know, it's a team league. His teammates, of course, can back him up if he doesn't end up winning. So, you know, and I think that you do have to think about the players a lot in team leagues. I think that's something that's probably has it has a very large effect on how matches do end up going. When you have a player like Rogue, who is just so good at the standard macro game as Zerg, he can mix in all-ins, he can mix in cheeses, but he can just play a straight-up game and beat almost anyone. He will have an advantage coming into it versus a player who's a bit more creative with their builds, who's a bit more out there with what he does, I'll say, to put it kindly, for SOS. And just because he is so good at the standard game, at a standard macro game, you have to feel like that does give him an advantage. Now, in this game, we are actually seeing that Rogue did have to take that farther away second base, because SOS did, of course, go for the probe block, as is usually standard. Didn't do it in game 1, though. And it's going to be the Stargate again. So SOS says, you know what? I think I can do this again. I think I can go into that Void Ray. Well, we'll have to see, of course, if it is the fake Stargate opener into, once again, some sort of a depth play, or if this is actually going to be for double Stargate into Void Rays. Either way, you're expecting to see the quick third. You're expecting to see SOS try and macro up as quickly as he can. And Rogue, of course, taking the third base. Now, for those of you watching this and wondering when you can catch the World Team League, you can actually catch it Saturday, Sunday, and Friday, I believe, is currently what the dates are, now that Week 10 has come about, and for Week 11 as well, starting at, I believe, 8 a.m. Eastern Time. That is, I believe, right around, it's 7 p.m. Korean Standard, and then it is like 2 p.m. European, I think, something like that. But that's usually when these matches happen. Again, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. It's a wide, a range of matchups for your choice between teams. And then after next week, actually, is going to be when the playoffs start. So you're going to see the number one. How the playoffs are going to work, I think, will be, of course, explained when they actually start. It's a little bit of an interesting format, but it's very exciting. The top 6 teams from the regular season will advance to that. The bottom 6, of course, are not going to be able to play, as this Void Ray is going to get a few Overlord kills, and that's really the first bit of harass that we've seen in this game, aside from Rogue slowing down the third base from SOS by about maybe 20 seconds or so. But this is not the fake Void Ray opening. This is not SOS building a single Void Ray and then going into a depths. He is building a second and now a third. So it's going to be a bit more committed to this air presence for our Protoss player. Also committed to killing off these Overlords, which he's already gotten 2 and should be able to get a third. Obviously just some nice pickoffs because it forces the Zerg to spend a bit more money than they want to. That 100 minerals, it's not a lot, but it's just a bit something to chip into their economy. And if Rogue wasn't on top of it, would be able to supply block him, but of course Rogue very, very on top of building his Overlords. That's +1 melee attacks coming down for Rogue. 16 lings as well. I'll have to see what that is for, as the third gas is being taken as well. And yeah, there's going to be a ling flood. That's 22 Zerglings on the way. And unless SOS unless Rogue thinks that there's some sort of an attack coming, this is just going to be to try and go in and kill his opponent. Now SOS gonna commit to killing the Queen, gonna get it as well. Has to pull back though as one Void Ray is focused down, gets to about a quarter of his hull. And SOS going to 4 more gateways, getting up the charge, going into the Templar Archives. We'll be once again transition this into the ground-based army. Rogue, well, has these Ling run-bys available. Of course, you know there's not going to be a lot of presence for the Protoss because, well, their Void Rays are across the map, and that's the biggest thing to keep in mind. Shield Battery going to get focused down. Ling Flood into the third base. See how much damage it can get done. Shield Battery overcharge does manage to be canceled by killing that building off, and, well, so far, few probes going down. I think about 3 there. I'm not sure. The counter didn't pop up, but you have 24 more Zerglings on the way from Rogue now. He is committing. He is going all in. He's saying, listen, I will kill you with this off 3 bases. And there's the Nidus network as well. This is exciting. Rogue deciding that this is how he wants to counter SOS's play. Ooh, that Archon won't even morph. That's huge. SOS was trying to get a counterattack going there. Now just going to have a little bit less of a fighting armor. Spire as well is on the way. I don't imagine that will end up being used unless the Nidus Worm does not kill the Protoss. But here comes the Zerglings. Once again, splitting SOS apart, trying to get as much damage as possible. But SOS, he's not losing a lot of probes here. He's actually not really losing anything. Ooh. Ooh, Rogue, this is dirty. Manages to find a small gap in the division for SOS. Pops down the Nidus Worm. Will have Queens coming out. Will be able to try and start to come in here and kill off the production of the Protoss. Ling run by into the third base, knocking down the wall at the natural. It's so many Queens. I think that's 11 Queens now running in. Zerglings into the base. They broke through the wall. And you have Charge Lots, you have Void Rays, you have a single Archon, but I don't know if that's enough to beat what Rogue has in the base. We'll have to see. SOS here going to try and commit. No upgrades on his ground force. Void Rays are going to start to get focused down. The pylons were taken out as well behind his production. Rogue being extremely smart about what he's focusing down. As now the Queens don't have any Zerglings to actually support them. All the Zerglings ran towards the natural and did end up getting cleaned up. Reinforcements are going to come through the Nidus Worm though, and SOS is just not able to push this back. He's not able to really do anything about it. And behind this, 13 Mutalisks are on the way. Rogue says, if this doesn't kill you, well, guess what will? It's the follow-up, because you're focusing on the Charge Lots, you're focusing on this anti-Queen army. You're not going to have anything to deal with Mutts. Well, maybe you might. SOS slips a few Zealots into the main, manages to grab himself that scouting information, knowing the Spire is there, knowing that there are going to be Mutalisks on the map, and immediately starts up that Phoenix production, but you still can't help but feel like, you still can't help but feel like this is not the best spot for this player, for SOS. It's just, it's a really rough position right now. It's really rough. Mutalisks are going to try and commit here to killing these Void Rays, and while they should be able to a single Archon, it's good, it's not good enough, and it's going to immediately get focused down. 2 more Archons coming to try and help clear this up, and well, they'll be able to do a decent job, but a good magic box there, and Mutalisks clean it all up. GG is called. Rogue. Some great play here to get an early 2-0 for DPG.